Okay, my friends, this is a very basic, very simple writing a research paper guide. Okay, and this is for 8th grade. This is your final essay for history class. Okay, this is the assignment that I gave you on GradeLink on the teacher page. These are the requirements. The essay must be 5 paragraphs long. You must include some facts from the textbook, and that means don't make stuff up. You must have at least one fact from a source other than the textbook. And your essay must have proper spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and grammar. If you're handwriting your essay, it needs to be cursive handwriting. And of course, as always, put your name on it, put the date on it, all that stuff. Okay, so this is replacing, or it's not replacing, this is, since we don't have a final, and I want to hear something about what you learned, we're just going to do this essay instead. So, step 1, you need to write an outline. An outline is like the bones of the body. You could probably get by without any bones, but it's not pretty. Okay, writing an outline before you start writing your essay helps you make sure that all the parts are in the right place. Okay, without bones, not so good. With bones, much better. Okay, so the first step is an outline. Okay, so here's an example outline. This is what an outline looks like when you write it out. My topic is Europe, because that wasn't an option for you. So here we go. It's 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph is the introduction. The 5th paragraph is a conclusion, and they have a very similar content. So we're going to talk about those in a second. The 3 middle paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, match the 3 things that I listed in my introduction. Okay, and they also match the requirements I gave you. Something I found interesting, a way the culture is different, something I want to learn more about. Okay, so for example, the first paragraph, our ancestors came from Europe. Almost everyone there used to be Christian. When the king became Catholic or Christian, so did all the citizens. Okay, and you'll notice that my 3 middle paragraphs have a balanced size. I have the same number of bullet points under each number. Okay, the outline, it's like a map. It's a drawing of my essay, and it helps me make sure that my content is balanced. You want to try and keep each section about the same size. If paragraph 1 is like a page long, then paragraph 2 is like 2 sentences, and paragraph 3 is like 2 sentences, your essay is not balanced. Okay, it's not structured well. You do want to keep it balanced. If you're writing an outline and you're just like, you can't come up with anything more for one of your sections, maybe you need to change the topic for that section. Maybe you didn't choose something that you have enough information about. Okay, so that's a good way to find out you need to do more research or you need to think about a different topic before you start writing your essay. Because once you've written the essay, you're halfway through and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of stuff to say. That's a bummer. It's a lot nicer to write, 5 or 6 lines and go, I really can't think of any more differences. Maybe I should, whatever. So that's the purpose of the outline and writing it before you start writing your essay itself. Okay? After you write your outline, the next thing you do is write an introduction. Okay? Introduction, introductory. This is saying hello. It's nice to meet you. Welcome. I'm happy you're going to hear my words. Okay, you're giving people information about what is about to happen. Okay, you don't have to give them all the details, right? If you're shaking somebody's hand, you don't tell them your entire life story right then. Nobody wants that. Okay, but you are going to give them a quick overview. Hi, welcome. Nice to meet you. We're going to talk about this because I like it, whatever. Okay, and that gives them advance notice. That gives them a little bit of warning. Okay, this is my introductory paragraph. I'm going to let you read it. Okay? So it's only 4 sentences. It's not too long. I start with, this is how I know about this topic. Then I say, there was a lot to learn. Okay? I mentioned the 3 things, or 3 kinds of things, or 3 groups of things I learned. Okay? Each one of the items in my list is going to be discussed in detail in one of my 3 middle paragraphs. So that means I will have a paragraph on interesting facts. I will have a paragraph on ways the culture is different. And I will have a paragraph on things I want to learn more about. Okay, this is the hi, nice to meet you. This is what we're about to do. Okay, and then at the end I explained why I chose this topic. You can copy this example here pretty closely. Okay, it doesn't have to be exact. You can be as creative as you want, but if you're stuck, copy mine. Okay, this year I learned about China in my history class. This year I learned about India in my history class. Okay, you can copy this. A history essay is not quite the same thing as a literature essay, right? And it's certainly not a creative writing essay. When you're doing history, it's a little bit simpler. You can be a little bit more down to earth, just the facts. You want your writing to be interesting, and you want it to be beautiful, and people want to pay attention to you and aren't confused. But it does not need to be quite as creative. We'll just stick with creative. Okay? Next, you write your middle paragraphs. Okay, every middle paragraph will have the same basic structure. Okay, your first sentence is an introductory sentence. Just like the paragraph, or just like the essay had an introductory paragraph, the paragraph has an introductory sentence. Okay, when studying Europe, most of the topics had to do with the history of Christianity. Okay, you don't need details, you don't need examples, right? That's like a life story while you're shaking hands. Don't do that. Just an idea of what the paragraph is going to be about. Okay, all my interesting facts happen to have the same theme, so this was very easy. I'm going to talk about Christianity. Okay, now I have 3 examples. Europe was mostly founded by the Romans, and their religion was Christianity. Fact. I was very interested in the different ways the countries had missionaries bring the faith to them. Fact. As soon as the king of the country converted to Christianity, everyone else in the country did too. Fact. Okay, the third fact happens to be the one that I read about in a different book. I'm not asking you to tell me which fact you got from an outside source. You don't have to make a footnote or a bibliography or anything like that. Okay, just stick it in there. I'll figure it out. Okay, so I have 3 sentences, 1 for each fact. My 3 middle sentences provide some kind of evidence that my first sentence was true. And then if you look at the last sentence, it's actually just the first sentence with some more details in it. Okay? In the first sentence, I said most of the topics had to do with the history of Christianity. In the last sentence, I said the other topics were usually very closely connected with religion. Okay? So it's almost the exact same idea. I just said it a little bit differently. People like that. It closes the paragraph and feels familiar if you go back to something they've kind of already heard before. Do that 3 times. Okay, you did it for the first middle paragraph. You got to do it again for the second middle paragraph. And then you got to do it again for the third middle paragraph. So now you have 4 paragraphs. You have your introduction and 3 middle paragraphs. So you're like done, basically done. So now, this is the tricky part. The conclusion is a very close copy of the introduction. And this seems to be really tough for people. Okay, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can reuse your thoughts from that first paragraph. The conclusion is supposed to tie it all together. So if the introduction was, here's what we're about to do, the conclusion should be, wasn't that fun? Look at what we accomplished. Okay, both the introduction and the conclusion are describing what was inside the essay. Okay, for some reason, this just people get to the conclusion, they're like, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to say. And don't do that. Just say your introduction again. Okay? It's not suspicious. It's efficient. Okay? So here's mine. You should be reading it. Okay. Conclusions are just restatements of introductions. Right now, for you in this life, this is correct. This is good. This is fine. Your conclusion has the same ideas, maybe reworded or in a different order. Sometimes conclusions don't end up being as long as the introduction. You can see mine. I didn't actually list all three of my things quite the same way. Okay? It's not an exact copy. You don't want the reader to be bored. Okay? But they should be comforted. Like, oh, right. Yep. Yeah, she said this at the beginning. And I kind of heard it again in the middle. And now it's one more time. Okay, this way your reader knows that they heard you right. Okay? They're not confused. If you get to the end and the conclusion says something new, they're like, wait, I don't remember that. I got to go back. Okay? And that stresses them out. Don't do that. You don't want to make stress for your reader. When they get to the end, they should go, yes, I've heard these things. These are the right things. I just read them. Okay? So again, conclusions are tricky for people. They shouldn't be tricky. They're not tricky. Look at your introduction, turn it around, take it apart, change up some words, put it back together. Okay? Don't overthink the last part of your essay. Okay? And that's it. Now, while you're writing, don't be fancy. Okay? Fancy disease. This is such a common thing. I edit papers for adults all the time. Okay, that's something that I do. Adults get fancy disease too. Okay, they use really long sentences or super complicated words. Okay, what you're trying to do is show me that you're being serious. Oh, I'm being academic. Okay, but it's not working, right? It's just too fancy, and it makes your writing confusing. Instead, use normal words. Like if you were describing this to a friend, if you were explaining it to a friend. Do not use long, complicated sentences. Do not use gigantic conjunctions like heretofore or therefore or furthermore or notwithstanding. Okay? Don't do it. Just say no. Okay? Don't be fancy. Just tell me what you know. Okay? Don't get fancy disease. So common. Don't do it. Okay? And when you think you're done, read your work out loud. There's no way I could have 50 of this same slide and just say it over and over again. I cannot tell you how important it is to read your work out loud. Don't just read it. Read it out loud. You will catch so many mistakes. I can read something 100 times and think, yep, it's good, and then read it out loud and find 5 more things. Okay? It also helps you tell if you have fancy disease, right? If it's difficult for you to pronounce words you're using in your essay, you should change them, okay? This very much helps you with that, okay? And it also helps you realize, oh, I forgot to talk about this. Or, ooh, I used the word actually 3 times in 3 sentences, okay? Little things like that in your writing, you will notice much more quickly if you read it out loud. Okay, so the last step, read it out loud. Make sure you actually like it. And then proofread your paper. That means look at it for spelling, capitalization, grammar, punctuation, and vocabulary problems. Okay? If the word is in your book, You don't have an excuse for misspelling it. This is something that almost all of you guys do often, right? So I don't really feel bad about harping on it. Don't assume you're spelling it right. Don't just guess and hope it's good enough. Don't go, oh, she knows I can't spell. Do none of those things, okay? Look it up. You have a textbook with pretty much any word you need in there. I bet you have a dictionary. You might have a thesaurus. Worst case scenario, Google will help you, if nothing else, okay? Do not presume I'm just going to ignore bad spelling, okay? Same thing with capitalization. Country names, continent names, the names of languages, the names of cities, the first and last names of people, names of religions, names of rivers, names of particular mountains, names of oceans. All of these things should be capitalized. If it's capitalized in your book, it should be capitalized in your essay. Okay? So take more time than you think you need to go back over and proofread and really check to make sure you've, it's called proofreading, okay? Looking for these kinds of mistakes. So this is after you've read it out loud and you think all your sentences are good, you come back and you proofread. That's looking for these little mistakes. Okay? And then that's it. You do those steps, you should be fine. You can turn this in whenever you want. All right? If you watch this today, you sit down and write your essay on China, and you turn it in tonight, that's fine. All right? And then whenever I'm going to do the South America video next, and when you're done with that, you're done, okay? It's not due until the end of the day on Friday, May 8th. So you have 2 weeks to work on this. You can turn it in whenever you want. If you have questions or problems, you need to let me know, okay? I don't mind you sending me a note and saying, I'm still confused, or are you sure that, or what did you mean? That's fine, okay? So you have until Friday, May 8th to turn this in. All right, and that's it. I'm done. This was supposed to be 15 minutes. We went a little over, and I'm sorry. Have fun. Good luck.